Okay, so let's talk about the real estate market. And once we get through this component of things, we will be taking a break for those of you that need to go out and close a deal real quick. Big to small. Took me a little while to find this graphic, but just so you all understand, that's like a 25-foot boat right there. That's two of them. That's like 50 feet, right? So there's a little interesting perspective on the world. But when you talk about market conditions, what I've found is it's easiest to go big to small. Okay, because a lot of people don't really understand how we got in this situation to begin with and why they're being impacted. So if you start on the national level and then work your way down to the local level, that's usually the way that sellers are most receptive to this conversation. Make sense? Okay, so let's go and look at this. Now, this information was all taken directly from the vision speech at Family Reunion. Okay, so you can go download the PowerPoint from KWU or KW Connect and just pull slides out of it and use them. So this will give you an idea about what has happened in the national market to home sales. Why did we get this bump in 2009?
Tax
refunds.
Yeah, first time home buyer tax credit, right? But they fell back down again in 2010. So this can really begin to give your seller an idea of what was happening through here. Why did we have this ramp up to 2005? What caused that ramp up?
Easy money, mortgages easy to get.
Absolutely, okay. So why was the money so easy to come by?
It's 100% financing. Interest only.
Okay.
Qualifications were a lot less than they were giving loans to folks who really didn't deserve to get loans.
Why?
Because they passed some administration in the 90s, so they should have everybody own a house.
Thank you. That's exactly it. Basically, our federal government got together and in their infinite wisdom decided that they would push homeownership up to about 85%. Now, if you go around the world and look at the healthiest economies in the world, 62 to 64%, I'm a numbers geek, I apologize right now, but 62 to 64% is exactly where most economies thrive in homeownership. It's a very balanced place to be. We got as high as 84. Okay, that's this bubble. And y'all are exactly right. What they did is, because the federal government said, hey, we want to push homeownership up and give everyone the opportunity to participate in the American dream, some earlier than they should have, the banks all said, well, we'll loosen our lending regulations. Okay, so when the banks loosened their lending regulations, what happened to the market? It got flooded with buyers, right? Just flooded with buyers that had never been there before. So y'all understand the law of supply and demand? Mm-hmm. Okay, so we had excess demand and a fixed supply. So what happens to prices? Up. They go way up. This right here, that's the real estate bubble. Okay, and this is really starting in 2000. You can see we tracked right along with a 4% appreciation. You can go back probably 50 or 60 years in the United States and see that historically homes have appreciated at a rate of about 4% a year for like ever. It's as close as we can get to an absolute in a market. So we track right along with this up until 2001, and then we begin to creep up above it. Okay? So in 2008, on a national level, and this is the median price, we got back to where we should have been. But y'all understand the law of averages, right? So essentially, for the 4% rule to hold true, we have to spend as much time, we have to have as much space taken up below the line as we did above it. This makes sense? Okay? Because if we have the same volume below as we did above, then that would average 4%. Okay?
So you got 4 more years?
Great question. Who knows? Okay? And let me tell you what I mean by that. There's still this glut of foreclosure inventory out there, right? So what happens if the banks put all the foreclosure inventory on the market tomorrow? Every single last piece of it. What's going to happen to prices?
Disaster.
Plummet. They're going to go. So we probably won't spend a lot of time below the 4% line, but it'll be really, really, really bad.
I read in California they have banks are own more foreclosures now than they have on the market in like 2 or 3 states combined.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So now let's say that the federal government continues to be highly involved with our economy and continues to pump money into the economy and hold interest rates at an extremely low level for, say, the next 10 or 15 years.
And you know they were talking about subprime lending the other day again, too.
Absolutely. So if they do that, we'll probably kind of do something like this, right? Does this make sense? So it'll be a longer recovery. So I really don't know.
Because what I think is just, from the last couple of years, it's like a double-edged sword, because if everything was just left alone and let the pieces fall where they may, yes, it would have been bad, but the recovery period would have been a lot better.
Shorter,
And
much
let's
shorter.
elongate this with, okay, staging just exactly how, for how long.
Yep.
I mean, it's like, because right now, it's affected everything by holding things and basically trying to make things look better when, if you just let it hit the fan, I mean, because it's just, I think it's going to be 5 to 7 years.
I think it'll be, my opinion, this is just kind of my gut based on the numbers and some other things that I see, that it's going to be 2017, 15, 16, 17, in that range before we get back up to the appreciation curve of 4%. Now that means that we're close to the bottom, theoretically. But again, it's this calculus of how involved the federal government is, how much they prop things up by pushing money into the economy and holding interest rates low. And it's really beyond kind of my pay grade to understand. But what I do know is probably the best case for a seller for right now in the United States is that prices will stay about where they are, right? Because if prices stay where they are again next year and the year after that, we're kind of, you can imagine that line extended out, we're picking up that time below the 4% curve.
But in reality, the banks are now unloading all these foreclosures. There's no way they can stay where they are, because you're competing against the short sales and foreclosures, and the average sale has to be priced against that. There's no way. I mean,
Well, and let's go a step further, okay, because, and this isn't part of the class, so that we're just getting thoughts by C.B.
Sorry
Johnson
about
and Colleen, evidently. But how long have rates been under 5%?
years.
Year and a half, 2 years? About right?
Long time.
Okay. Historically, the national average for an interest rate is something like 7.5%, right? Where do y'all think rates are going?
Up.
Okay. I think it's conceivable that we could double our interest rate easily in the next 5 years and be at 9, 10%. So at 9 or 10% on a 30-year mortgage, today someone at 4.5% could buy a $250,000 house.
Then you're looking at 200.
Maybe less at 9 or 10%. You might be looking at 160, 170. Okay, so what's going to happen to prices then? Right? Okay, so y'all see we're kind of building this case for the seller to understand some things. Does this make sense? Okay, let's go to the next
And
slide.
I'm sorry, where is this from? This
This is from the vision speech
Okay.
from Family Reunion that Gary Keller does every year.
But it's on the shared drive now.
The vision speech, well, I don't know if it's on the shared drive
This-
for the office.
These slides are, right?
I
Yes.
think it is.
Okay.
I think it's on the shared.
Yeah, you
drive.
should, and this PowerPoint will be on there also.
Okay.
Yeah, everything will be on there. So again, just another little look at things here. This is the actual appreciation per year. So here we are, 01, 7%, 02, 8%, 03, all right, 9, 10, 12, 12%, up through 05, and then at 1% appreciation in 06, -1 in 07, 08, 09, and a 0.3% appreciation in 2010. Up 0.3. Okay? Y'all look depressed. Are y'all scared? Y'all worried about something?
No.
Okay, just checking.
Yeah.
We'll pause here, and before we take the break, I'm going to share something with you to hopefully will give you a little bit of energy and enthusiasm back, because everybody's looking like, boy, am I in the wrong industry? Okay, so the first thing I would tell you is it doesn't matter how much money the bank loses, it doesn't matter how much money your seller loses, you're still able to earn a commission. This makes sense, okay? It's a little harder, it's a little more difficult, but you're still able to earn a commission. The second thing, I had a really, really unique opportunity last week, and I want to tell you a little bit about that before we go on our break to give you some food for thought. My two boys play Little League Baseball. And through Little League Baseball, I've gotten to know and build a little bit of a relationship with a guy named Trot Nixon. Any of y'all ever heard of Trot? Okay, he's from Wilmington, went to New Hanover High School, played ball for the Red Sox. He's about a year older than I am, retired 2 years ago, won a world championship with them. Pretty influential player, okay? So I got to have breakfast with him last week, which was really cool, and I had no idea what I was going to talk with him about. Here's what's fascinating. He and I ended up talking for an hour and a half to 2 hours about mindset. Professional athlete and me as a real estate agent talking about mindset. So I just wanted to share a couple of his thoughts on mindset with you. Number one, he talked about how he nearly did not make it. He nearly did not make it to the major leagues because his first year out of high school was all basically an extended spring training. Second year, he's playing single A ball, and it was amazing. He said it was very eye-opening. Number one, he'd never been away from home before, so he's 19 years old, trying to figure out how to feed himself, which is a separate issue. But he also said that he was amazed at the mental wear and tear. He didn't expect that he was going to be traveling so much, spending so much time in hotel rooms, not getting good sleep. So he said the mental component of the game was just, not even playing the game, but just being on the team was massively difficult. The third thing he talked about was it was a different game. He used to be this guy in high school that would get 3-4 hits a game, batting average up around 500, 550. For those of y'all that follow baseball, that's like really, really, really impressive. That means half the time that he went to bat, he would get on base. So then he comes into the minor league, single A minor ball, and he can't hit anything. He hits the break, and he's batting like 140, which is really, really, really bad, and didn't think he was going to make it. And what he learned from all that is he didn't have any work ethic. He didn't have a game plan, and he was still operating in his E, for those of y'all that understand E to P. He didn't say it that way, but he's down here in his E. And then he began to get purposeful, E being entrepreneurial. So he was doing what came naturally to him, what felt good. He didn't have any models, no systems, no accountability. So then he began to apply more of a game plan, and things improved pretty dramatically. So fast forward, and this is his other big comment that I thought was fascinating. He said, you know, at the Major League Baseball level, there's really no appreciable difference in skill. He said, you've got some guys that are just freaks, that are just, they're aberrations, their physical talents are just so massive. He said, but the biggest difference between a 20-year career in Major League Baseball and a 6-month career is mindset. Biggest difference. The guys that last 20 years playing professional ball, number one, have figured out how to put together a game plan for every day. Number two, have figured out how to put together a game plan for every season. And number three, have figured out how to put together a game plan for their career. He said the most important component of the mindset piece to him was the ability to let go of the mistakes. It was the ability to let go of striking out. I mean, the best hitters in the major leagues bat 300, right? 330 is like unbelievably good. So 1 out of every 3 at-bats, they're getting a hit. So that means they're failing 67% of the time, right? Does this make sense? Okay, so the guys that it's the ability to go 0-6, 0-8, 0-10, 0-12, and not lose your mind. And let go of the strikeouts and understand that if you just keep working at it, it's going to get better. So this kind of relates, Brian, back to something you asked about was, how do you find those motivated sellers, right? And part of it is you just have to keep doing it. And we're going to talk about some lead generation techniques and those sorts of things later on. But I wanted to just share that with you because to me the correlation to real estate is so dead on. Because we're in a business now where we're in a slump, right? 5 years ago, you walk out of the office building and you get hit by a buyer that wants to buy a $600,000 house and they're fully qualified and life is easy. And today, you have to look and look and look and look and look to find a motivated, qualified, ready to go buyer or seller, right? Do you all see the correlation? Okay, just making sure. I have a little problem with sports analogies, so if you get tired of them, you can tell me and I won't be offended because I know that I kind of geek out that way too. Okay, so before we take our break, any questions? Thoughts, comments, ideas? So far, so good? Okay, so it is, I have one